October 28th, 1899, Volume 2. Who am I, and who are you? This morning my lovable Jesus came surrounded by a light, and looking at me, as though penetrating me everywhere, so much so that I felt annihilated, he told me, "Who am I, and who are you?" These words penetrated me deep into the marrow of my bones, and I could see the infinite distance that exists between the infinite and the finite, between the all and the nothing. Not only this, but I could also see the malice of this nothing and how it had covered itself with mud. It seemed to me like a fish that swims in the water. So was my soul swimming in rot amid worms and among many other things, which are fit only for striking horror to the sight. Oh God, what an abominable sight! My soul would have wanted to flee before the sight of God thrice holy, but with two more words he binds me, and these are, "What is my love for you? And what is your return for me?" Now, while at the first words I would have wanted to flee, frightened from his presence, at these second words, "What is my love for you?" I found myself sunken, bound by his love from all sides, in such a way that my existence was a product of his love. So if this love would cease, I would no longer exist. It seemed to me that the beats of my heart, my intelligence, and even my breath were a product of his love. I was swimming in him, and even if I wanted to flee, it seemed impossible for me to do it, because his love surrounded me everywhere. My love, then, seemed like a little drop of water thrown into the sea, which disappears and can no longer be distinguished. How many things I understood! But if I wanted to tell them, I would be too long. Then Jesus disappeared, and I was left all confused. I saw myself all sin, and in my interior I kept imploring forgiveness and mercy. After a little while, my only good came back. I felt all soaked with bitterness and sorrow for my sins, and he told me, "My daughter, when a soul is convinced that she has done evil in offending me, she already performs the office of Magdalene, who bathed my feet with her tears, anointed them with balm, and dried them with her hair. When the soul begins to look within herself at the evil she has done, and she feels sorrow for it, she prepares a bath for my wounds. In seeing her evil, she receives bitterness and feels sorrow for it, and by this she comes to anoint my wounds with a most exquisite balm. From this knowledge, the soul would want to make a reparation, and in seeing her past ingratitude, she feels love toward a God so good arise within her, and she would want to lay down her life to prove her love. And this is the hair, which, like many gold chains, binds her to my love. October 28th, 1906, Volume 7. Everything which is light comes from God. Having received communion, I found myself within a great light. It was Jesus himself, and he said to me, "My daughter, everything which is light is all mine, not of the creature. It happens as to a person who is invested by the rays of the sun. If he wanted to attribute the light which he enjoys to himself, he would be foolish and brainless. However, there is this, that person, instead of enjoying the light of the sun, could say, 'I want to walk in the shade,' and withdraw from the light, while the soul, in withdrawing from my light, becomes darkness, and darkness can produce nothing but evil." October 28th, 1915, Volume 11. The life on earth of Jesus has been a continuous sowing, so that it may be harvested by creatures, and produce fruit in them. This morning my always adorable Jesus came and told me, "My daughter, my life on earth was nothing other than sown seeds, which my children will harvest, provided that they will remain on the same land in which I sowed these seeds. Depending on their act of harvesting, my seeds will produce their fruit. Now these seeds are my works, my words, my thoughts, even my breaths, and so forth. So if the soul picks them all, making them her own, she will be enriched in such a way as to purchase the kingdom of heaven. But if she doesn't, these seeds will serve as her condemnation." October 28th, 1928, Volume 25. How all that has been done by God has not been taken by the creature. Works of Jesus. The feast of Christ the King, prelude of the kingdom of the divine will. I was continuing my round in the divine volition to follow all of its acts, and my sweet Jesus, making himself felt in my interior, told me, "My daughter, all that has been done by our divinity, as much in creation as in redemption and sanctification, has not all been absorbed by the creature, but is all in my divine will, in waiting to give itself to creatures. If you could see everything in my divine fiat, you would find an army of acts of ours that came out of us to be given to creatures. But because our will does not reign, they have neither the space in which to put them, nor the capacity to receive them. And this divine militia has been waiting for as long as 20 centuries to place itself in office of exercise, so as to bring to creatures the gifts, the clothings, the joys, and the divine weapons that each of our acts possesses, in order to form together with them one single divine army, a celestial militia. Now, so that the kingdom of our divine will may reign in the midst of creatures, it is necessary that the creature absorb into herself all of these acts of the divinity done for love of them, and absorb them so much into herself as to enclose within herself everything that my fiat possesses, interiorizing them and consummating them within herself. So my divine will, consummated within the creature, will make this whole divine army re-enter into her. All of our acts that came out of us for love of them, in creation, redemption, and sanctification, will re-enter into creatures, and my divine will, re-entered and consummated within them, will feel triumphant, and will reign dominant, together with our divine army. This is why I do nothing but make you sip continuously everything that was done by us and that is done in creation, redemption, and sanctification, so as to be able to say once again, as I did on the cross, I have consummated everything. I have nothing left to do in order to redeem man. So shall my will repeat, I have consummated it in this creature, in a way that all our acts have been enclosed in her. I have nothing left to add. I have consummated everything, so that man might be restored, and the kingdom of my divine will may have its life and its regime on earth as it does in heaven. Oh, if you knew how many works I am doing in the depth of your soul, in order to form this first kingdom to my divine will. In fact, once I have done the first, from one creature it will pass on to the next, in such a way that my kingdom will be populated more than all others. And therefore my love in forming this kingdom of mine is so great, that in the soul in whom my divine volition must reign, I want to enclose everything that I myself did in redemption, what the sovereign Queen did, adding what all the saints have done and do. Nothing must be lacking in her of all our works. And in order to do this, I put the whole of our power, wisdom, and love in motion. After this, I was thinking about today's feast, that is, the feast of Christ the King. And my sweet Jesus, moving in my interior, told me, "My daughter, the Church does nothing but intuitively grasp what she must know on my divine will and how its kingdom must come. Therefore, this feast is the prelude of the kingdom of my divine Fiat. Indeed, the Church is doing nothing other than honoring my humanity with those titles that, by right, are due to it. And when she has given me all the honors that befit me, she will move on to honor and to institute the feast to the kingdom of my divine will, by which my humanity was animated. The Church proceeds step by step, and now she institutes the feast to my heart. Now she consecrates the century in all solemnity to Christ the Redeemer, and now she moves on with greater solemnity to institute the feast to Christ the King. Christ the King means that he must have his kingdom. He must have peoples worthy of such a king. And who will ever be able to form for me this kingdom if not my will? Then, yes, will I be able to say, I have my people, my Fiat has formed it for me. Oh, if the leaders of the Church knew what I have manifested to you about my divine will, what I want to do, its great prodigies, my yearnings, my sorrowful heartbeats, my anguishing sighs, for I want my will to reign, to make everyone happy, to restore the human family. They would feel that in this feast of Christ the King is nothing other than the secret echo of my heart, that echoing in them, without their knowing it, has them institute for me the feast of Christ the King, in order to call their attention and reflection, Christ the King. And his true people, where are they? And they would say, let us hasten to make his divine will known. Let us let it reign, that we may give a people to Christ the King, whom we have called so. Otherwise we have honored him with words, but not with facts. End of October 28th. Fiat.